Yellowstone was the world's first national park. But do you know what the second national park in the world was? It's a bit of a trick question because it no longer has a national park designation, and hasn't for well over 100 years. But the answer is Mackinac National Park. And this is the story of how it became the world's first failed national park. Mackinac National Park was located on Mackinac Island, which is a small island in Michigan located on Lake Huron between the upper and lower peninsulas. It was established all the way back in 1875, 3 years following the establishment of Yellowstone and 4 years before the establishment of Royal National Park in Australia, which is currently the second oldest national park. Now, the differences between America's first two national parks were stark. Yellowstone was essentially an untamed wilderness located a world away from civilized society, at least in the minds of Washington politicians. Mackinac Island, on the other hand, had a year-round population and was becoming an increasingly popular tourist destination. The scales of the two parks are also vastly different, as Yellowstone protects more than 2.2 million acres, while Mackinac National Park protected less than 1,000. So how did Mackinac become a national park in the first place? Well, it was all at the insistence of U.S. Senator Thomas Ferry, who was born on Mackinac Island and who introduced the bill to protect a large portion of it as a national park. Now, besides the fact that the island was a burgeoning tourist destination, another thing that helped with the establishment of the park was the fact that it was located immediately adjacent to Fort Mackinac, which served as a garrison for the U.S. Army at the time. This was incredibly important as the U.S. military was responsible for managing the country's first national parks, as early parks like Yellowstone and Mackinac were established decades before the founding of the National Park Service. So in the case of Mackinac National Park, the commander of Fort Mackinac also ran the park, while the troops that were stationed there served as park rangers. But ultimately, the fort that helped establish the park also played a major role in its demise. You see, in 1895, only 20 years after the national park was established, Fort Mackinac was decommissioned, meaning that the island lost its military presence. As this occurred more than 2 decades before the Park Service was founded, there was nobody left to manage the park. So ultimately, at the governor of Michigan's request, the federal government decommissioned the national park and transferred the land to the state of Michigan, where it became Mackinac Island State Park, Michigan's first state park. Fortunately, the land was transferred under the condition that it remain a state park,